Pulsechain launching too is like, you might have to really do your research and be really careful how you move around in there, because I assume that there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of developers that come out of the woodworks that are just going to try to do everything they can to get your Pulse out of your hands. I don't know about Pulsex or the rest of it, but specifically the network token Pulse, because that's the thing that's going to have the majority of the liquidity and the majority of the value. And they're going to try to get it from you, whether they steal it, whether they tell you a Fugazi, fantastic, beautiful thing over here and it wasn't true, or whatever it is. You got to be careful. But we don't have to worry about some of these assets that have launched on Ethereum with Hex and have all these other things like Maxi. And I find that those, when Pulsechain launches, that they're going to have the highest opportunity to come to parity with the prices, because you already have a price. Why would you suggest that it needs to be any other price when you already know that this is what people are accepting for the price to be? So there should be support in those ranges, especially in the V2, because then people can just buy it up to there, and then they go, no, we already know that this is what the price is. Then you can start doing those things. Hell, even Hedron might go past what its current price is on Pulsechain and go straight to the ceiling, straight to the arbitrage point, because people would actually start want to be able to utilize those things at cheaper fees. Really, pretty much Hedron and that whole Icosa thing, and even Hex, which we didn't know then, Hex was like kind of needed Pulsechain, needs something like Pulsechain. So I think that Alex took those things into consideration. Yes, these things are going to come out on a network that's particularly expensive when it comes to gas, but when Pulsechain comes out, all these buttons that you can push are not going to mean a damn thing to you, because it ain't even going to cost you anything to do any of it. And you'll be more willing to participate, more willing to do everything. So I do see a lot of value in the Pulsechain side of stuff. So
hey, Executioner, I got a question regarding this. I keep forgetting to ask you this. So all the yield that we've been accruing all this time on Ethereum chain, the yield's gonna show up also on Pulsechain?
Yes, it's all gonna get copied over, everything you have. Your stakes, your yield, your liquid, your everything.
Alex is the guy to kneel before.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing. And I think that some of the other developers that are now like, we have a good product, we're tired of waiting for Pulsechain, let's just launch on Ethereum and get people liquidity, and they can do whatever they want with the stuff that they have. And they're even setting it up with a totally different contract so that some of those things won't get copied over, because you already have a sacrafice set for Pulsechain. Like, it wasn't actually supposed to be on Ethereum at all. And they're figuring out ways to be able to appropriate it so that they can just launch it and get people liquidity. And if they want to bring it to a chain on a bridge, then they can. And they can bridge over those assets and then swap them for whatever their assets that they want at that time. So
right, it's actually smarter for them to do that, to work out the kinks.
Yeah.
Too. Like, I don't know if one project that's pretty impressive on how they're the founder, BNB Pot, like, he's faced a bunch of challenges right now, and he keeps providing solutions. So it's good to see him work through that. And that's what we need. Like, that's something you can stand behind, are these founders that actually are providing solutions to any challenge that occurs.
I heard people were pretty excited over on Binance Chain for that BNB Pot thing. That's a casino, right?
Right. Yeah, it's really cool. I like it. I wish I sacked for it, and I wish I would have sacrificed more. Because, I mean, come on, we all gamble every single day of our lives. The second we wake up, life's a gamble.
But yeah, like you said, everything is a gamble. Everything is a risk. There's always something that you have to do. And if you do nothing, then you take no risks, then there probably are no rewards. If your level of around is 0, then your chances to find out is also 0.
Right. I think it's good to educate yourself on what's out there. You know, the biggest thing that I always say about this community, and what drove me even here, is we're continually educating.
My question is, I've managed to accumulate cost averaging. I've read all the ceiling prices theory quite a bit, quite good at it. My only question is, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what's a safe enough to stop war, to have some sizable, I can secure my. Now, how are you guys playing the price action?
I guess it would depend on when your entry positions were on your overall average, and where it ends up you want to take profit is kind of what you'd want to look at.
Okay.
And it's going to be specific to the individual.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Like if I let's say I purchased 500 million Hedron when it was 6 zeros and a 2, and it was only, I don't even know what the hell the price that would have been, $500 or some shit like that, maybe. And then today, now that would be close to $2,000 or something like that. Maybe I would, if I had a bunch more Hedron previous to that one specific purchase of that 500 million, I might be okay with extracting it after it's done a 5x, right? So maybe I wouldn't be, but maybe I would. I guess it depends on the individual.
Yeah, I think the best advice in regards to that is to plan your trade and trade your plan because, most people suffer from the bull market in the sense of euphoria, and then they'll change their plan and they'll become greedy and not take enough profits on the way up and become more absolutism in their feeling toward their bag. And you can definitely hold longer into the future as long as you're taking out percentages like 10%, 15% at certain X factors.
Yeah, because I started to get concerned. I think I was hitting an echo chamber. I'm saying, oh my God, this thing, if it only does 10% of what Hex did, because you don't know what causes the price out. Because I don't know what it looks like in the Caribbean, the outlook, it looked horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the world's going to end, and I think that that the narrative that's strong and loud right now is a typical narrative, albeit a little bit more extreme than normal, in order to shake people out of their holdings. Kind of like that, the idea that they want our crypto kind of thing, and so they're going to use psychological, they're gonna move the price down in order to shake people out of their positions.
Well, I wish I had bought more Hex deal, 3 cents in play. I think I'm paying the price.
Yeah, the same thing with like what Rich just said about in the bull market where people get a little bit greedy and they maybe not take profits when they should have. In the bear market, it can do the same thing with you when you're like, well, it already went down this much. Maybe I'll just wait to buy and maybe it'll come down here, and then the price goes up and you're like, fuck.
Yeah, but if it keeps going up, and it's like, oh, I wish I hadn't sold.
Yeah.
Thing is,
You just don't know, man, for sure. You just don't.
I'm looking at, yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at the key. I think is to create a profit-taking plan to where whatever the price does at any moment, like wherever the quote top is, even though it could be a local top, you're okay with it. So like I'm looking at mine right now. I'm like, okay, just for example, like at a 10x, I'm taking 10%, leaving 90. At the next 5x, which would then be a 50x in total, I'm taking another 10%, and then then leave another 90%, and then the next 2x I'm taking 25%. So it's like, and you can see, like, you can write that down and actually do all the math and see what your number is at the end of, say, 1000x, and you can compare that to having an absolutism kind of philosophy and not selling anything until you hit that 1000x, and it's like, okay, what's the difference? And that difference, that cost of the difference, is basically risking off, and it's worth it because it also gives you emotional health through the volatility.
And your wife don't kill you either.
I've had to learn this lesson the hard way, so it's a good thing to take profits, a little bit of profits on the whole way up, in my opinion.
One of the contradictions I'm running into with that philosophy, I think I'm taking your approach. I still haven't figured out. I think I'm DCAing and for the long haul, just on the Icosa side, so I get a little bit of cash. The ignorance I'm playing on, the dual yield, and probably factor that in at the top on the other side. Probably factor it as the payback option.
Sounds right. I mean, execution, you mentioned that, how that can be considered almost like a, you take a loan out on Hedron, and then that's almost like acts as like a short, right? What was that you were mentioning?
So if Hedron was to have a spike up in the price and you knew that it went out of the liquidity range to have support by the liquidity, so you knew there's going to be a pullback, and before the pullback happened, you took the borrow out on the Hedron that you had, and then price pulled back down, you'd have to pay back less Hedron on the borrow to cover it, and you'd end up with liquid Hedron in your pocket. So you can use that to short the market.
All right. Question on that approach right there. Would you, when you take that borrowed position, at any point in time, do you lock up anything in stable coin to say, okay, I have profits? Or do you just stay in the Hedron the entire time, just play for the difference?
I mean, until you paid back the borrow with less Hedron, then you would hold on to the Hedron. Yeah, I wouldn't sell it. I wouldn't do anything with it until after you make the borrow, you take the Hedron, you wait for price to go down, and then you pay it back with less Hedron, and then now you can do okay, so when you take the borrow, it locks your HSI. So then you can unlock it by paying it back. So if you can borrow 1 billion Hedron and then pay back 800 million to be able to cover the borrow again, and then end up with 200 million extra Hedron, in the end, and then unlock your HSI, have your HSI, and then gain 200 million Hedron in the process of you just doing that? Wouldn't you do it?
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Alex is probably one of the most brilliant dudes I've seen in this space for the past 2 years. When I watch a few of his interviews, I'm like, this dude is the most humble, smart person I've seen in the entire space. I mean, he is the polar opposite of Richard. I mean, Richard is a brilliant guy. I've learned a lot from Richard. But oh my God, I have to cringe when I listen to Richard because I guess personality is just so polarly opposite of what I am. But wait, Alex is godsend one. I really appreciate him. Do you guys ever see like what's his next move on how he's going to evolve the Hedron Icosa space? I heard him did something the other day. He was talking about past history about tokenizing mortgages. Like, wow, that's a wicked play. I wonder if he ever do that in his little ecosystem, extending the utility of the token set.
I think Alex's point of view on whether he was going to expand the ecosystem any further past Icosa was that he was pretty happy with where it sits. Now, that could be another move where he is working on something and he was just putting himself in the position to make sure that he didn't give anybody expectations of what he was doing. And that could have been like, oh, well, I changed my mind later, right? Like I thought of this and I did this too. So who knows? Who knows what could happen? Or if somebody else comes along and builds on top. It's hard to say. But yeah, I think that a lot of people are really interested in those things, like how to be able to tokenize like deeds and ownerships of property, deeds and ownership of land, maybe even insurance, right? Like being able to provide insurance and things like this too. I think it gets a little complicated. I think that there's some added risk. And exactly how they intend on doing it is beyond me. But maybe it'll take a bunch of people to get together and put their minds together to figure out how they can do it and make an advantage of it without having too many negative externalities.
Forks, ETHFair, and POW are gonna basically get drained right when Pulsechain's launched. That's what I was.
I'm not saying that. Well, people might try and sell what they can to get to buy Hex because it's going to get copied, but eventually it will go back up. But what I'm saying is that the liquidity will be, there'll be one chain that has the most liquidity versus the rest, and so the Ethereum one now might be drained a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, if people have more value for Pulsechain, then yeah, that would probably be down, my mentality of thought would probably go down that road. Like that people are going to remove their liquidity on the Ethereum network and appropriate it over the Pulsechain.
And people were saying like, oh, the proof of work chain's nothing, but soon it's going to be this one in terms of our community because it's going to favor that the liquidity on the Pulse side chain.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of those things will probably be something that you'd like on the daily you'd be paying attention to. Like when bridges come out and people that actually get paychecks, like are they investing in which chain? Which chain is garnering not just the liquidity and the volume, but which chain is actually garnering people to come to that one instead of like if I just swapped over and everyone else just swapped over instead of DCing into Ethereum because that's the only one we have, they start DCing and on-ramping their money directly into Pulsechain and not even dealing with anything to do with Ethereum at all and seeing those types of things happen, then you're going to have higher volumes, higher liquidity, higher usage, more support, and all sorts of stuff for Pulsechain regardless. I mean, eventually, like, the dust is going to settle after Pulsechain comes out and people decide which side of the fence that they want to go on, or if they want to stay on both sides of the fence or whatever, no matter what their choices are. Eventually, it's going to die down. But then after that, or maybe even during that process, the process of people bringing in money and choosing which chain that they actually want to go towards and actually support, then it's kind of like a consensus thing through the community. Which one is actually going to be the one that thrives? Sometimes you don't need to like have the support of the entire community of the Ethereum network. Sometimes you just need enough support for any network. Like look at all the other L1 chains that launched empty. They got some sort of support and they did pretty freaking well, right? Like they did pretty well. So we'll just have to see how it works out, especially if they did something that was like different than all the other ones. Like the only way that you can participate with this other thing that's now there with how the L1 operates might be like more juicy, more speculative, more opportunity than any of the other ones that are out there, like it's probably going to garner some support from people that you wouldn't even expect to do it, right? When they learn about it, like, oh shit, I can do this over here and it makes things easier. Like my onboarding experience can be a lot easier. Like, I don't know, we'll have to see. Like we know the problems, we know like a lot of the majority of the problems that crypto has, and like where there's a limited, you know, a limited entry, like, you know, your education may need to be pretty high to make sure that you're safe, like security and things like this. There may be like quite a significant amount of stuff that you need to learn to be able to get in. And so like onboarding people like may be pretty tough on certain chains. And then figuring out how to get your money back off might like, oh, it takes 3 days for them to be able to get my money back. Like, I don't like that. Well, what about this other chain that maybe do instant transfers and it's immediately there, kind of like how Coinbase does now. You know, that might incentivize people to be able to get in and out and do all the things on this other chain and be like, fuck this other one that I'm on. I ain't waiting 6 hours. I'm impatient. That may be the winnings, the one key initial winning thing. It could be something minor like that. It doesn't exactly have to be so drastic and intuitive even. It could be just a minor thing that people find as an inconvenience, and now it doesn't need to be that way, so they come over here instead. And the competition might cause for the other chains or new developing things to make their stuff better too, right? So competition's good in a certain way. But just like how Amazon became the winner of the .com era and a couple of other websites and things like this that are huge, like I have a feeling crypto is going to kind of go through the same thing over the next 10, 15 years, where you shoot your shot and you hope that you're the one that has the better marketing and the better community and the better availability to keep retention with your people. You know, eventually it may just be one, you know, like Highlander. And then again, I'll say this again, we'll just have to wait and see. Cause for slippage on that first buy, but that amount of slippage that they got, whoever did it, pushed the price all the way up into the liquidity that was now appropriated up higher than the current price is now. And that's exactly what would happen. It'd be extremely volatile where the price is now, and it would push the price all the way up to where it would currently be, where all the liquidity was at that time, just on any buys that would happen at that time. And that's just how it works.
Okay.
Wherever support is where the price will be.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. I'm just trying to wrap my head around all this because there's like
It's not
I guess,
easy.
yeah, I guess like I understand how markets function and how, you know, liquidity providers set the price. I'm just trying to think what's the consequence of the Hedron, because I thought this was like a narrative that the hex Hedron ratio of 0.0013 or whatever should be hit come auction time, because that was the whole design that Alex wanted, was for this thing to be representative share.
Was that Alex that said that because of these auctions that this is exactly how I designed this, so that the price would go to a certain price at this price for that time and these things and stuff like that? Or was it a YouTube personality that people tend to respect that said maybe if this thing happened, then this could be a possibility of other things that happened? Which of the two was it?
I mean, I was around when Alex, like Alex isn't giving promises, of course not, of prices. Certainly that's not my claim.
And you're talking about a time in something where you made a statement about Hedron price before Icosa even existed and before the liquidations things even happened. So it's not pertinent to the question in which you asked me that had to do with the liquidations. I just wanted to clarify that as well. Anything about Hedron that was stated and Alex saying that if this was that, then if Hex was this price, then Hedron could be that price. I didn't want you to go there because I would stop you.
He never said it was guaranteed to happen. I'm not saying that said anything like that. But there was a design intention that there would, like, the ceiling price would be at a certain level, and that's because once you get past that, there's like arbitrage that can happen, and that would bring the price back down. Like there was a ceiling price that it could hit, and from my understanding, not his, auctions and staking both facilitate increased auctions due to Icosa in the first place. Combined with the staking, kind of speed up the natural process of where I believe, not him, my words, I believe the Hedron price should be.
I would probably be like on the same side as you, but I wouldn't nail it down to November, right? I wouldn't be like that, regardless of anything else. Like when Icosa didn't exist yet, and it was just Hex and Hedron, like we had like speculative talks that it would take 5 to 6 years to be able to appropriate a price where people would be able to use the borrow function. Like actually be able to use the borrow function.
Right.
And now, since these other things exist, like I would have cut it down to maybe 2 years, maybe. I don't know. I don't really actually know, but I'm going to go less than 5 to 6 years at that point in time.
Right. I agree.
And then
So
like the narrative of like, oh, November and all these things and stuff like this, like, I don't know. Like it could, I guess, like if there was enough people that were like, oh shit, I need to get involved with this and like do these things, like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I can't go much further than that.
right, I hear you. So let's say Hedron price is well below the ceiling price. I don't know why we don't call it a ceiling price. I guess it's the same thing, ceiling art. If it is the case, we're not close to the ceiling price, then all that happens is extra. Like, let's say we're 10x away from the ceiling price.
For like me at least, like assets that I speculate with, like I give them like, okay, so let's say you got a college team that you really really like and you get a brand new coach, and you know that within their someone's college career that they're going to probably be in school for 3 to 4 years. So if you already had seniors that already learned the playbook from the old coach and juniors and sophomores that had already learned the playbook from the old coach, that you're going to have some sort of recruitment process of new kids, the new freshmen that come in that are now learning the new coach's playbook, and they're fresh, right? They don't have this other playbook and these other things that they were taught to now they have to forget and learn this whole new thing like the seniors and the sophomores and the juniors do. So you give that coach 3 to 4 years of recruitment process to be able to get his team in line before you're going to have some sort of expectation from the team to actually start winning. To say that you had a good coach, then you can maybe have those types of expectations. I kind of do the same thing with cryptocurrency in a totally different light, but still give it a chance, like 2, 3, 4 years. Cryptocurrency is like still kind of a teenager, right? It's kind of a baby. So 2 to 3 years is probably like a really good position to have for your hold to see like what this thing really's got. So I would at least, that's what I'm doing. So even with Hedron, we're like 5 to 6 years. I'm kind of like, well, you can, as long as you make hex stakes, then you can mint it for free. And I not only minted it, I bought it off market too, especially at the low at 6 zeros and like a 2 or a 3 or some shit. Like I bought for sure. And I'm glad that I did, right? Because now that we have all this stuff, like it gives me even more of an incentive to hold, right? And the fact that, we speculated these things were going to happen in 6 years, but now it's just happening sooner. Like I'm super happy, right? To see that the community is falling behind it and like actually picking things up and learning stuff and educating and like getting involved. And I mean, it's great. It's great to see. So I got high hopes and a lot of confidence in this ecosystem.